It's now time for Mad Markets. Paul Theron joins me. Thank you so much, Paul, for joining us today. BHP Bulletin down around 4%.
Yes.
It actually went ex-div, so it should have been down more than most commodity stocks, but
should
it's
have
actually ex-div. Surely stocks
I
go
love it
under
when
pressure.
stocks go up when they're ex-div.
Yeah, down 4%.
Wow.
Amplats is down 5.4. Kumba down 5.2. I mean, all these commodity players down significantly today.
I don't really know what that's about. I mean, obviously we know we had a negative setup today because we've got the US market off. They closed for Labor Day today, and then Friday we had a very weak close as people were worrying, and then the news broke about these US banks that are being sued by the feds. So it doesn't really make sense. Here you've got this environment where your government appears to be doing things that it needs to do to stave off the crisis, but then these things, you know, people are being sued.
And this is just for you because we only have 1, 2,
Yeah?
3, 4 gainers on the top 40 today.
Oh, what a day.
What a day.
Not
But
another
this is
day
great
like
opportunity.
yesterday.
A great opportunity. Stocks down around 5% in most instances. I mean, Aspen was up 2.5% today. That company, in fact, out with, I think, a trading update results last week.
Yes.
And, of course,
Not results, trading update.
Yes.
But looking fairly positive there,
of course, a
obviously benefiting.
20% or so increase in headline earnings per
Yeah,
share
a little
expected.
bit of noisy given all their acquisitions,
Yeah.
but certainly it did look as though there were people that were in the light of that busy accumulating, maybe foreign buyers.
And then your favorite sector, of course, Anglo Gold Ashanti and Harmony gaining significant ground. What are you doing with, in the light of all this negativity? Because we've got real stories coming through. We've got, of course, the US suing certain banks, and these banks also include the European players. We've also got the worries about the CDS spreads increasing dramatically, double-dip recession fears. Are you still a bull in this
Well, it certainly
environment?
feels a bit wishy-washy. You know, we know we're in the tail end of the European and North American summer. Markets there not really at full strength yet. Ongoing, you know, reports of the same things. I mean, the Europe situation is hardly new, but we did know that some of the policy conferences they've been having and some of the conversations haven't been going that well. I mean, many of the people who follow Europe from a distance would say things like, why don't they just, you know, complete full political union immediately, you know, declare everything solved and have one budget for the whole region? But I mean, everybody that knows things a little bit more closely would tell you that that's not exactly politically achievable in the short run. So it feels as though we're going to kind of hobble along. I mean, the US thing, I don't really know quite what to make of that, because what this case is about is the federal agencies like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac basically alleging that the banks put mortgages into some of these collateralized products that were fraught, that were bad, and now the guys are going to say, well, you know, we didn't know. But we know that Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac employ hundreds of people whose job it is to analyze the mortgage market. So how can they allege that, you know, they didn't know what they were being sold? So I'm not quite sure how that thing's going to pan out. But all I can tell you is that everybody would love for the Great Recession of 2008 to be over already, but it's taking a little longer than previously assumed.
Do you think the Fed should be suing banks?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't really have a view on it either way. If I was an American citizen and I lived there and it was my tax money which had been used to bail the guys out, and now we were seeing this, I'm not quite sure which side of the debate I'd be on. I guess I am of the view that if people behaved irregularly and improperly, then they ought to take the pain. But then you would have needed to have that view all the way through. So.
Okay, so do you think that the US...
We don't hold these banks for these and other reasons.
Okay, the US, do you think that most investors would have had a fantastic day off and tomorrow we're going to see a fantastic run in the market? Because we usually see, after a very big down day, we usually see an up day.
And we normally see that trend, which we've spoken about many times before, where the market goes down via the elevators, as they say, and then climbs back up the stairs. So we're in that mood. We know that corporate profits haven't been too bad, but there are anxieties about, you know, investment trends and so on and so forth. And the GDP readings haven't been great, and the unemployment numbers haven't been great. But I have been seeing the odd editorial saying, look, things don't look so bad. So I think I would be of the view that that's most likely to be what we see this week, is a kind of a gentle nibbling and then a, you know, rather sustained move upwards until the next news.
Are you going to be one of those nibbling?
Well, we have been. We've got and had in our New York operation some major inflows from investors who want to be buying in. And we weren't quite sure how quickly to proceed, so we did like a third of the funds by way of purchase, and we did a little bit more nibbling on Friday, and we'll probably continue and would have been buying today if we could.
Let's take a look at the commodity markets. Metrix profits up 155%. Rio Tinto and Anglo American selling their stakes in Palabora mining. And I was chatting to Peter Major and he said, well, this is the best time to actually sell. This is a very good time to sell assets if you possibly could, because we don't know where things are headed, and he's worried about recession. So what do you think is playing out? That they are in fact significant, well, it's not a significant enough play for both companies, or do you think that they are worried at this stage about future prospects?
Well, it's an interesting question when you put it like that, because I think it is the future prospects that precisely people can't get their heads around quite. My colleague Byron Lotter came up with an interesting number. It looks as though BHP Billiton and Apple will have roughly the same profits in this calendar year, somewhere in the region of between 25 and 30 billion US dollars. Apple trades, we know, with a market value of 350 billion, whereas Billiton's is half of that. So what that tells you is that the market is of the view that Apple's earnings trend is going to be sharply upwards and continuing and ongoing, whereas the consensus view is that Billiton's earnings are going to slump, either because of a lack of demand for commodities in terms of physical quantity or in terms of prices. Now, understand that we've lived through this kind of mood and this kind of environment before, only to see demand recover strongly. So it does depend on what happens with regard to Chinese growth and all of that. I'm definitely in the camp that says that demand is stronger than people anticipate, and if it's not China, then it's going to be India and Russia and Brazil and all the other countries.
So emerging markets. But then there's also this argument that if, for instance, China's goods that they export is we're not going to see enough appetite for them because of a double dip scenario in the developed market, then China won't be able to grow as much as initially thought.
Look, we can never tell where we are in the economic cycle until we've lived through it. But I think by reference to the past, we are not in an environment where everybody is sunny and optimistic. We are in an environment where we are still recovering somewhat painfully and the confidence returning after the big downturn. I'm definitely not in the double dip camp. That means you've got to be taking advantage of days like today to be accumulating stock. And I think, you know, from our optimistic and bullish perspective, that would definitely be the case.
Okay, so what stocks are you going to be buying tomorrow, Paul?
Well, we were filling our boots in recent weeks with the likes of Aspen, so we've been encouraged by that move. We've been buying Massmart lately. I'm like somewhat amazed and thrilled to see them right up at around 160.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously people are saying they want to be invested in Africa and Massmart, you know, Walmart, what a way to go. But we definitely have been accumulating the commodity stocks, and that for us means Billiton and Sasol.